Hello, amazing singer. It's your favorite vocal coach, Worship here, and welcome back to the Making Musical Quantum Lips podcast. I know, it's been a while, but let me tell you, taking this course on teaching voice is an eye opening experience. I mean, 5 hours teaching. There was like 7 minutes break intervals, I think two or three times, but 5 good hours. Let me tell you a little secret. You have to promise me you will tell no one. I totally do stuff in the last 1 hour. But thank God there was a replay and I just went back to watch it and it's been amazing. Trust me, Coach Justin is just he's just great at what he does. I cannot wait to just get to the end of that course. Like, it's just layering knowledge upon knowledge. I mean, okay, enough about me. So, I'm back and I'm bursting with new tips and tricks to help you take your voice to the next level. So, buckle up because we're about to make some serious vocal progress together. Today on the podcast, we're going to be having a guest. I do not like to call her a guest because, firstly, it's not her first time on the pod, and secondly, she's just an amazing person. Every podcast with her is always a bomb. I'm talking about no other person than the sensational and phenomenal Judy Rodman. And today with Mama, we are going to be talking about fast tracking your progress and breaking bad habits. Wherever you are, I would love for you to pay so much attention. So if you're not busy or caught up in something, you could just plug in those earphones, headphones, and let's dive into today's topic. Today we're going to be talking about fast tracking your vocal progress, your vocal growth, and also breaking bad habits. Bad habits are like cycles and they must be broken if progress must be made. And I've spoken to Mama, and Mama has beautiful insights on how to solve these issues. And I really cannot wait to hop in. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Mama Judy. Mama Judy, I am so happy to have you on this pod.
I'm so glad to be with you again. This is always a blast to speak with you. Yeah, especially
Thank you.
about the strange and wonderful subject of the voice.
The voice is so the art of singing is so simple, but yet
It's
complicated.
connected to
It's just
everything.
it's fish. So the last time we had a pod, we did not have opportunity to take a peek into Mama's early beginnings, her growth process, and I told her we would really love to talk all about it because I went online and I was watching some of her videos and my God, guys, I need to let you in on a little secret. If you've not gone to watch any of your videos, I think you should. Mama is so pretty. Like, you need to watch those videos.
Oh, thank
She's
you
so
for
pretty. I could not wait to tell her she is so pretty. I was like, God, God. I was taken aback. Like seriously. I was
Oh,
caught by like I was taken by surprise. So guys, she's going to dive in. So Mama would really love to hear you talk about your growth as a singer because that's one thing. People when they see where we are now, when people see, you see, when I talk to students or when I'm trying to get them to do something and they're like, how did you get to do this? And you're trying to do it. And they do some probably weird sounds or they make a mistake according to them. And they're like, I'm sorry. I'm like, do not apologize. I didn't just wake up one morning and just know how to do this. It took years, like years and years of consistent practice. So I am actually not expecting them to I just say, okay, do this, and they're just able to do it in an instant. It will be a miracle, and I'll be really happy if that happens. But if it doesn't happen, I'm not moved because I know it takes time and consistency. So I would really love for you to tell us about your how did it all start for you?
well, my father was always a musician and
Okay.
always sang. I was raised all over the United States and actually in
Mm,
England as well. So
mm,
I was, really aware of all kinds of music. But my father and my mother were from rural Mississippi. So
Okay.
they knew, that's why they were experts in country, music. And my
Yeah.
father had played country music and played mandolin and guitar and all that and sang old country songs from the time I was born. So
Oh,
what he did, he was an air traffic controller and he did music on the side to
yeah.
calm down from the job, and relax from the
Yeah.
job. So my earliest memories are of him playing guitar and singing these old country songs at our kitchen table
Yeah.
in the evenings. And when he would come home from work, and so little by little, I was the firstborn, so he taught me how to sing. And I actually, we always had jam sessions. A big part of my knowing how to sing had to do with a tradition in Mississippi, which was
Wow.
jamming with neighbors and friends and family and all that. So even though we were raised in the big cities where the centers were for air traffic
Mhm.
control, we would always go back to the country, and that's where the jam sessions were, and we would you know they would my father would have us all sing for everybody that was there, and then gradually I learned to play guitar, and then my siblings came along, okay, and I got moved off the melody into a harmony part
Wow.
because the next sibling had to sing the melody. So
Yeah.
I figured, my father taught me how to sing a harmony part. But all this time we would be performing for people, and then the next sibling came, and I got put on another part. So that's the way I learned to sing harmony by ear. And my father also taught me to play guitar, and my grandfather taught me to play piano by
Oh my
ear.
God, such a musical family,
Yeah,
Lord.
it was. Yeah, it really was. And then I ended up taking piano starting 6 years old,
Okay.
like for real, like taking piano. But I never took a vocal lesson. I just always sang.
Yeah.
So part of, I would say to everyone listening, if you have children, get them involved in music early on. That's
Mhm.
it. It's really hard. You can do it, and I've taught people to do it, but it's hard to just jump in as an adult and start singing. So
Yeah.
somehow, and besides that, music is really good for a child, and music is good for a young adult. If you're a teenager, it's good to be creating. So
Yeah.
that's one way to grow your voice is to sing, and sing all the time anywhere that you possibly can. And if you possibly can, be around someone that can tell you whether you're in the key or not.
Okay.
So you're not just making joyful noises, you know. And you can sing in church, and you can sing in choirs, and all
Yeah.
that. But the more you sing, the more you sing. I mean, I don't really like to teach. I'm a vocal coach, and I don't need a lot. I don't
Yeah.
like to teach children because
Yeah.
I don't want to steal the love of the music from them, and I don't want
Yeah.
to make them have to work too
Mhm.
hard unless they're yelling and they're damaging their voice and they're being
Mhm.
asked to do it, to sing loud and all this, and so,
Yeah.
have to come in and help them sing loud without hurting themselves, but
Yeah.
mostly just sing. And then anyway, I went on, and I went to college. We moved around, and I kept singing everywhere I went, but that was secondary. I was going to be a research scientist. I was,
Mhm.
heading for that. But then when I was in my high school years, my choir director and his wife started doing little jingles at this little studio in Jacksonville, Florida. So since I knew how to sing harmony and play piano,
Yeah.
I kind of started working with them, and I started making money with singing, which, I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't know I could even do that.
Mhm.
So, I went to college, and I kept going, and I was thinking about maybe I'll be a music director or something. So I took music education as my major,
Wow.
with piano as my minor. I took
Wow.
1 year of classical voice, and that was all. But then what happened, because again, I'd been singing my whole life, uh, I got moved in to jingle singing, like from 8:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon, 5 days a week, as part of the staff singers in a Memphis, Tennessee jingle mill. We called it a jingle mill. And that's where I learned precision, because those were in the set that was in the 70s, guys, in the 70s. And there were no tuners. There were, if you edited tape, it involved blood because you had to cut it with a razor blade,
Mhm.
like oxide tape. So, we had to learn to be precise. And I learned, boy, did I learn that, because it's either that or you don't have that job. And we
Mm.
had to move. I mean, we had to go bam, 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 and sing the call letters and sing jingles for products and everything else. So that's where I learned to change my tone. I learned how to change the shape of my vowel to where it matched everybody else's, and cut off like a surgeon. And also I grew my stamina. That's another way that you grow vocally, is by singing,
Mm.
a lot. And so
Yeah.
I developed some iron chops, and I also developed my sense of style, because jingles involved kind of mimicking all kinds of styles,
Yeah.
right? So I
Yeah.
also joined at the same time, my a lot of the jingle people that I was working with, we wanted to do full songs. So we started
Mm.
singing in Memphis nightclubs, and I learned R&B. I got deeply, deeply, I fell deeply in love with R&B, and it became second nature to me. And but I also, in that, it was a cover band that I joined. So I learned to sing Fifth Dimension stuff. I learned to sing Brazil 66, and you guys may not even know what this is, but it's precision stuff, and Carole King and Jefferson Starship, and we sang the gamut of pop songs, not country. So I developed the style, because I had to do it authentically. I had to really get into it. So that was and I worked 5 days a week in the studio, 3 nights a week in the clubs. And so I developed, it was like either develop some strong chops or
Yeah.
stop.
Mm.
And what I did that I didn't know I was doing is I learned healthy technique because I had
Yeah.
to. And that was also the only way I could be that precise. Okay. Then came the stop, which was when my son was born in Memphis. I was in the hospital for 3 months, intensive care 7 weeks, and almost died. So from the endotracheal tube, I lost over an octave and a half of my range,
Mm.
and it took me 2 years to get well. And my surgeon said I had permanent scar tissue, and yada
Oh.
yada yada. So I thought, I'm done, and I decided, you know what, I'm not done. So, very long story short, I developed my voice myself back
Oh.
I healed it with doing some head voice work with Italian songs I had learned in that 1 year of college.
Wow.
And I sang, I noticed that my voice felt better if I very lightly, because it was damaged, very lightly sang in my head voice. So what that did was create flexibility in my instrument.
Yeah.
And so I got almost all of my voice back. And then we moved from Memphis, because I was known as the sick singer. I wasn't getting work. So my husband was a drummer. Anyway, we ended up moving to Nashville, where everybody else was moving from Memphis, and moved to Nashville. And I found out that, if I was going to be a session singer in Nashville, I had to have that precision that I had learned. But I had to stop guarding. I was guarding from the vocal damage, and it was like counterproductive to my vocal growth, and I had to grow my voice again.
Yeah.
So I got with a professional coach named Gerald Arthur, and that's the first thing he told me at the very first lesson: you've got to stop guarding. So I relaxed into his care, and I got back not only all of my range, but a half step higher than I'd ever had.
Mm.
So then I learned the value of great vocal technique and a really great vocal coach. So longer story, I became a vocal coach when I became a session, one of the major session singers in Nashville, doing most of the top work. And then I got a record deal as a country artist because
Oh,
Nashville's country, Jim Croce's uh, producer, Jim Croce had died. Tommy West wanted to produce a country acoustic, and I knew how to sing that because my
yeah.
father taught me. So I sang kind of a progressive sort of country and won some awards and everything else. Well, then my story is a story of hitting brick walls and
Mm.
figuring out how to move around them.
Yeah.
So that the label folded because MTM Records was sold to Germany and they didn't want a record label.
Yeah.
Overnight, I'm in my 30s by this time, and the label folded, and no label wanted to pick up a 30-year-old. So then I became a songwriter and I had a number one record, not only as an artist, but as a songwriter with
Yeah.
that Leanne Rimes cut. Then my songwriting, and I was writing for lots of major catalogs. Well, then what I was writing was not getting cut.
Mm.
So I ended up having to, well, okay, what do I do now? And I ended up realizing I knew about the voice because of all that I'd been through
Yeah.
and all that I'd learned to do to survive. And the first thing I did when I started vocal coaching was ask myself what worked for me. And I
Mhm.
felt this idea of pulling back. I realized I kind of did that when my voice was working the best. And I didn't realize I was opening my rib cage for breath control and opening my throat. I didn't know the voice science like I do now
Yeah.
about why it was working. I just knew it did,
It
and it
worked.
started working for other people. So
Yeah.
that's kind of to bring you up to speed to uh, the bad habits that I had to break were being too guarded, being too careful, which made me tight.
Yeah.
I had to break the tension habit. And I
It's
needed to be able to trust somebody to be able to do that.
yeah, it's one of the issues a lot of students have, being too guarded. They do not want to sound too loud. I had this student of mine. She
Yeah.
attended a kind of church, and the church, all ladies must sing "Ooh" all the time.
Yeah, gotcha. And so
And
she's got a big
she's
voice.
this
Yeah.
belter, this Karen Clark kind of people. She just wants to just go all the
Yeah.
way every time. So every time she just wants to explode and go all the way. They're like, no, you're being too loud. And
She needs control,
it
right? Yeah.
yes, and it's kind of put her in this kind of cage. So when she was with me, I was like, when she's singing, I'm like, can't you be any louder? That's not actually what I asked. I'm like, you can be louder because from the way she sings, I know there's just so much more she can do. And like,
Yeah.
you can do so much more than this. Why do I feel like you're holding back or you're trying not to? Then she explained what happened at church, and I'm like, oh my God, you need to learn control does not mean you should just put yourself in this cage and in this box. So she
No. And no.
in her own way, she was feeling too guarded, too guarded. She didn't want to sound too loud. She
Yeah.
didn't want to sound apart. She didn't want to sound, and it was kind of like a problem. Listening to you speak, there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn. Hearing you speak about your journey is it just brings this song to mind. Like you said, it's like a brick. Your journey is one of many brick walls, which you have to break and get stronger. I think it's
Yeah. Or either that, or you look at the brick wall, and if you can't break
and
it, you
find
go
a way
around it. You're diverted.
around it.
Right. You're
Yeah,
right.
so
Exactly.
it's really beautiful. And
Yeah.
these journeys has really formed and shaped the person that you are. And I always tell students too, if you pay attention, if you are a very inquisitive person and you ask the right questions, when you're done with good, intense vocal training, you become a coach yourself because you would begin to see your mistakes in other
Yeah.
people. You're
Right.
like, oh, you're doing this. I did that before,
Right.
and this was how I corrected it. Oh, you're doing this. You
Exactly.
shouldn't do this. My coach usually said, and when you begin to do, my coach usually says, and you just put a little more research on it. Bam, you're already a coach yourself. So there's a whole, your journey is a very beautiful one. And I know many people do not have this opportunity to grow up in a community, in a family of singers. Hearing you say your grandpa taught you the piano and your dad taught you the guitar is really amazing. And a
Yeah.
lot of people do not have
Yeah.
this. But I really wish a lot of people started singing at a really young age. Most people just grew up and said, oh, I would really love to learn how to sing. And they just want to just hop in and expect that they would be Michael Jackson in like 2 months or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's crazy. But then there's a whole, and you said you never had vocal training, but I would beg to disagree because even if you never had it formally, you had it like
Informally.
it's
Yeah.
yes, it happened
Yeah.
informally.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's also a thing I tell people. Um it's an argument that is still ongoing where they say what is a gift and what is a talent. And when it comes to
Yeah.
singing, they're like, are there gifted singers? Are there skilled singers? Are there talented singers? And the argument is that people that are talented do not have the gift, but they somehow, through training and all that, were able to make something good out of themselves. And people that are with the gifts just have everything perfect, and with little or no training, they're already good singers. But I would also beg to disagree. I want to say most times, I want to say if you take someone who has, because I would not disagree. I would not say there are not people that are born with the perfect. So people have the perfect, their vocal cords are just in the perfect shape. They have the perfect breath control. They just woke up one morning and just did, oh, and they could make they could make the perfect sound. There are people like that. But I would still say, if you take those people from birth, the moment they gave birth to them, and took them to a place where music does not exist. Music, there's no good music, everything is just whack. They do not have access to good music, they do not have access to anybody who sings, they do not have access to
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
They would still not be good singers. They will just have it innate, but they will still not be good singers.
No, you're exactly right. Human beings learn from each other.
Yes.
And that's why it seems sometimes that good singers run in families, but that's
Yeah.
because they
They
heard
are
their grandfather.
surrounded. Yeah.
Yes, they heard their grandmother. They heard their mother and their father,
Yeah.
and that goes for the speaking voice as well.
Yeah.
There's two ways that you develop your voice. One is nature, and one is nurture. You know,
Yeah.
you do have the shape of larynx
Yeah.
that is a family thing. You know, that
Yeah.
there's some inheritance that you have in the shape of your instrument,
Yeah.
but how to use your instrument, you're going to get that from the same way you learn language, by
Yeah.
listening to
Listening and learning.
the village around you.
It's the same. It's the same. Just like you just this example you just gave now about language. You don't say someone is a talented. It's, oh, that person is gifted. He speaks good English.
Yeah.
Or you're like, oh, he's British. Oh, he's talented. He's so gifted. They are so gifted in Britain. They speak good English. If you took
Well,
a British person and brought them to Nigeria and they had no access to speaking with the British accents, they would totally sound like a Nigerian. They would totally sound like a Nigerian. So it's just I always tell people when they tell me, oh, you're just so gifted. I'm like, well, I know my mom sings, but I've never really heard my dad sing. And my mom is not this she's a singer, but she's not this spectacular this singer that you hear and you're like, oh wow. She just
what
sings.
about
She's
grandparents?
okay, well, I do not know about grandparents because
Might have been,
I,
yeah. Who
I didn't
knows?
grow up around them. But I really cannot say. I really cannot say. But then I grew up listening to people that sing. I go to church and I admire people when they sing. I'm like, oh, I go home and I literally try to mimic them. I just try to
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
remember how they did it. I'm like, I just want to
Yes.
do it while they're singing. I'm watching them. I'm looking at how the mouth, how they stood, how they looked, everything. And I just
Yeah.
wanted to, and
Yeah.
somehow, consciously, unconsciously, I was learning. I was having a vocal training
Right.
session there.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
when you say you did not have a formal, I would like to say you actually had an informal one by learning from around you, from family, and
Yeah.
it's just a beauty. It's just so beautiful. And when you talk about your how that way you gave birth, you lost like it's also another beautiful thing to see
Hmm.
because some people when that happens they just okay I think that's all
Yeah.
singing is not meant for me anymore and you just drop it there but you pushed and found a way around it and that's really beautiful so thank you so much for sharing and talking about
Hey, I totally get it. I understand. You're busy. Everyone is. Life happens to everybody. But you can still achieve your vocal goals. Join Eden School of Sounds community today and transform your singing. If you're interested, you can simply leave a comment. Yeah, Spotify allows for comments now, so you can easily leave a comment or send us a mail at joinedenSchoolofSounds@gmail.com. Eden School of Sounds, we're passionate about your sound.
okay then speaking about bad habits
Hmm.
you spoke about how that being guarded. Are there any other habits you noticed? And you said something about recovering your range, how that you learned to use your head voice instead of going
Hmm.
all out and all that. So I really love to hear about that. Then we're going to just from there just some progress into bad habits and how to tackle bad habits because bad habits puts us in cycles. Bad
Hmm.
habits puts
Right.
us in danger. People, the voice is very fragile, and I think there's something we call in physics that's called elastic limit. I believe
Uh-huh.
everybody has just how far they can go before they sustain a damage to their voice. So people
Hmm.
have power powerful instruments. They can go on and on and on with vocal abuse and bad habits, and they might eventually get to that damage point, but it will take a very long time. And for some other people, it just takes a few a few tours or just few and they've already sustained an irritation or something. So
Right.
we're just going to move from there from you. Then let's just talk about how to break bad habits bad singing habits.
Well, the two bad habits that I had was one was pushing too hard, pushing too much air, instead
Yeah,
of letting the mic work for me. And that was when I had to I had to try really hard to to do everything that I was doing.
yeah,
So I was pushing too much air. And I forgot where I found this statistic, but 20 minutes of screaming like at a football game can
yeah,
give you the beginnings of nodes, which are little blood blisters,
yeah,
which would turn into nodes should you keep it
yeah.
up. I mean, if the voice, thank God, can heal itself fast if you take the abuse off of it. But yeah, so pushing. And the other thing was articulation. I did what I call singer-songwriter fail. I would be all into the song myself, but I wouldn't be actually forming words very well. I'm kind of mumbling the song
Yeah,
and it would sound good, but that as far as the tone of my voice and stuff, but nobody could understand what I was saying.
yeah,
And so I made that mistake. I started doing that just a little bit during my songwriter years
yeah.
and then got busted by an engineer friend of mine and my vocal coach.
Yeah,
And I remember to this day my vocal coach saying, "Why don't you try over pronouncing this song one time and let's see what happens?" And what I thought to myself without saying it out loud was, "Okay, I'll do it for you right now because I love you so much, but I'd never do it that way in performance." So I did it, and he didn't have to say
and
a word. I
wow,
knew what I'd
it
just
was
done
different. Like it
was
was,
like, oh my gosh, it opened up everything. Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, but breaking bad habits, first of all, realize that it is possible to break bad habits. Don't be hopeless about it. You need to put in the time. How much time until they're broken?
Mm,
There's a thing called I didn't know about this, but I think it's fascinating. The myelin sheath highway, that's literally this myelin sheath, which is a physical substance, is
yeah.
wound around neural pathways to help when you start to do something and you do it the same way, for a few times in a row, the brain goes,
Um,
"Oh, let me help her, him or her, do that easier," and starts to wind this myelin sheath around that particular neural pathway.
yeah.
It almost works like an insulator in
Yeah.
an electric cord
Yeah.
to make it possible to move that faster, to move
Yeah.
that neural impulse faster, to make that happen more on instinct, right? So if you want to retrain your voice, if you need to get rid of a bad habit, this is so important. Try your best not to go down that old highway. Go down the new highway. Do something, and you'll have to really be mindful of it at first and fire those neurons in a different pathway
Yeah.
to get that chore done, that vocal chore done. And you're going to have to manually do it and manually think about it. And that's what vocal exercises are for. But the more you do it, the more the brain goes, "Oh, she wants to do it that way." And it starts to wind that myelin
Yeah,
sheath
it
around that
begins to,
new pathway.
I think it's the
But
same.
you have to allow the old highway to fall into disrepair.
Yeah.
That's the way you break the habit.
Yeah. I think it's related to this term, neuroplasticity. I don't know
Yes.
where the brain begins
Uh-huh.
to adapt to newer,
Yes.
um, and one very difficult bad habit to break, which I am so concerned with, is articulation.
Yeah.
I have people when students come to me, I lay so much emphasis on articulation, and they're like, why the heck does this even matter? Like, um, why am I so intentional about articulation? I'm like, no, I'm not teaching you to sound American. I'm not teaching you to sound British, because of course we should not have an accent in our singing.
Right.
I'm not teaching you to
Anyway,
sound that way, but even articulation affects the way you form your vowels, which will in turn affect the tone of your voice. So it's
right.
very, very important. And one funny thing with articulation is it's so hard. The bad habit is so hard to break because you've spoken that way for a long time. You've sang that way for a very long time. So breaking that habit is just so hard. How would you help someone with
Oh,
articulation
let me
issue?
share. Yeah, I can't wait to tell you because I've discovered, I mean, it's magic. It's so fast. The
Yeah,
improvement is immediate
yeah,
and it's organic. It doesn't feel fake. Here's how it works for my students, all right?
yeah,
It's remembering what the voice is for, delivering messages, right?
yeah,
So if you deliver a message that uh, or if you are successful at delivering a message, how do you
yeah,
know you are? Well, you get a response back. Well,
yeah.
it's some kind of physical body language or facial language that says, "I hear you. I
Mm-hmm,
understand what you're telling me."
mm-hmm,
Okay, so what I tell people is imagine you got to sing to the one heart that the lyric is to. First of
yeah,
all, you got to know who to sing to before you
yeah,
articulate anything, or it'll feel like a diction lesson.
yeah,
Okay. So so you got to know who you're talking to. And it's the person that the lyric is directed to. It could
yeah,
be to the one heart of your crowd because you're telling them a story song, but
yeah,
it's to the one heart. Could be to
yeah,
the one heart of God.
yeah,
Could be to your own heart, but you got to be
yeah,
external about
yeah,
it because the voice is about external, not internal.
yeah,
Okay. Now, okay, here's where the magic comes in. I tell people always imagine that this one heart you're talking to is partially or selectively a little deaf and they need
mm-hmm.
to see the words on your
Being
face and the
formed,
meaning
yeah,
of the words in your body language.
yeah,
And then they've got a reason to over articulate.
mhm,
And then the voice goes, oh, okay, that's what I'm doing. I want them to see the words in my face.
Yeah.
And then you do it just right. And every genre has got a little different way of doing that. Like R&B,
Yeah.
that it's a little more flowy, a little freer
Yeah.
than musical theater or something like
Yeah.
that. But within the genre that your song is, imagine that your listener is partially or selectively a little deaf,
Yeah.
and you need to get the response from them. And you know what, it doesn't do you any good to yell at a deaf person. You got to
Because
spell at them.
they can't actually hear you yelling. So, yeah.
Right, and then you're right, that articulating that way opens the vowels up, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you got more volume too, without even,
Yeah.
it's like free volume, you know.
Mm-hmm. So that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that tip.
Mhm.
So yeah, more on breaking bad habits. So are there other ways about how that we have to retrain our minds? We have to,
Yeah.
okay, this is the bad thing I'm doing. I have to do the right thing and do it consistently to tell my mind, okay, to tell my brain, we are no longer doing it this way, we're doing it that way. So the brain breaks from that cycle and moves. And
Right.
another thing that is so difficult to do is to get a singer from yelling to mixing or yelling to, trust me, you have not been to Africa or Nigeria. They love to yell.
No.
Especially, especially I know you can look at the Black Americans and the African Americans, the African gospel there, and you
Yeah,
can get a
yeah,
little,
yeah,
you'd see a little glimpse of what's how we sing in Africa and Nigeria
yeah.
looks like. But trust me, like ours is like two times more. And the most painful thing is you're not even doing it properly. Yeah, you're not even doing it properly because some of those African gospel there, they have this really cool technique to back them up. So they can sing that way for a very long time without losing their voice. But here you
Yes.
hear them do this over and over and they keep losing their voice, they keep losing their voice. And okay, they come to you for training and begin to teach them, okay, you do not have to yell every time. You could go the way of mixing. But the moment they leave
Yeah.
that lesson and they get in front of people, their very same audience, I think there's this idea of, oh my God, if I sound different, would I have the same effect like I usually do? So they're like, I'll just go practice how to mix some other time. Let me just serve what I normally serve to people here. You know, someone saying, yeah, I'm saying this because it actually happened to me. So many years ago, like, no, oh my God, I'm actually getting older. like, like 5 to 6 years ago, I was this, you could describe my voice as, um, actually, I think it's even way longer than that. Let's say 7 years ago, you could describe my voice as this because I was really loud and I was always going all the way. Then, if I hear that pitch, I'm like, if I hear that note, I'm like, I am going to hit that note. And the moment I say I'm going to hit it, I definitely meant I'm going to try to push my chest till I get there. And it was usually, I did that for a long time. So when the moment I get to church or get to any place and I hold a microphone, everybody's already expecting the growls, the
Mhm,
yelling,
mhm.
and it's usually like that. So when I began to work on, because I was like, okay, no, I cannot continue like this. I cannot have sing today and I lose my voice and I have to sing tomorrow morning. There are some days we have some really long concerts, like we'd have
Yeah.
one today, we'd have like throughout the weekend. And on the very first night, my voice is gone already. Like, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 I am not going to continue like this. And I'm like, okay, how do I get to sing higher without all this pressure, without all that? And I began to work on my head voice. So what I do is in rehearsals, I had this team would sit and would rehearse. So would pick this convenient key, and then I was really working on my head voice. I was so most of my singing, I did it all the way up there. Most of my singing, I still do anyway, but then it was more intense. I totally threw my chest voice away through it. The only thing I used my chest voice for was talking. Yes, the only, the only thing I used my chest voice for was talking.
Wow.
Every
Yeah.
other thing, the moment you just say sing, I'm already going, amazing grace. The moment you say sing,
Right.
I left the tenor section. I left the tenor because in the choir we have the harmonies, of course. I left it and I moved to the sopranos just because um
Wow. Yeah.
I wanted to expand. I wanted to make
Yeah.
sure my head voice gets stronger. So
Yeah.
I suddenly abandoned the tenor guys. I'm like, guys, no, I'm not doing this with you guys anymore. He said, then I moved to alto and I'm like, nah. Then I moved to the sopranos and just to see how
Yeah.
far I
Yeah.
could go. So for almost a year, I was doing that consistently. And funny, throughout that year, I would go with my crew, would rehearse and would pick a key and would probably be singing, let's say we're singing a song and we're singing Amazing Grace and we're doing it, pick this key. And we did it there. We totally practiced me singing it with my higher range, in my head voice and mixed voice. But the moment I get in front of the crowd,
Oh,
I'm like, how are people
yeah.
going to
The old highway kicked in.
I'm like, how do I how would they feel if I sounded different? And
Yeah.
bam, the old man kicks in. The
Yeah.
old stuff kicks in, and I blast
Let
everything in
me,
my chest voice. Then when we get back, and they're like, why did you do that?
yeah.
Why
I
did you
want to show
sound
you, I want to
different?
show you something real quick. Hold on a
All
second.
right.
I have this gadget, and it is, I sell it in in the States, but I don't ship internationally because I've had some trouble shipping. But the earphones.com company
Yeah.
does ship it. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's you put it on your head like that, and
Oh
these
my God. And
pieces
it
pick up your
helps you to
voice.
hear yourself very like
Yeah,
clearly.
yeah. You will
Wow.
stop yelling at yourself.
Wow.
So
Wow.
if you really have trouble, you might check out that earphones.com company and see if they will ship it internationally,
Okay.
because it's a game changer for my students that are yell too loud. Because
Yeah, I had
the same thing goes for metal singers, and I work with metal singers
yeah,
sometimes, and other people that have really big loud voices.
yeah,
And the thing is, you can make that volume from resonation, not from air pressure. You can
yeah,
do it. That's what Aretha Franklin is saying a lot in her head voice. People don't realize how much she's saying in her head voice because she's taking the pressure off her, but she's like a unified voice.
yeah,
And lots of people who people think sing really loud actually don't. They use the mic. They use the mic
yeah.
to
Super.
magnify all that
Yeah,
sound. Now, if
yeah,
you're a cappella, you still can create volume from resonation instead
mm,
of air pressure, you
yeah.
know.
So that's one issues a lot of singers face, actually. I've dealt with that to some extent,
Uh-huh.
to a very, very large extent. So yeah, figuring I sound totally different from how I did then. Then it was just like I was like what they call this. I had double personality. So in rehearsals, I'm a countertenor, but uh, uh, in on stage, I'm a shouting or yelling tenor.
Yeah.
So so it was totally crazy.
It's just not an option. What I tell people is you've got to retrain. You got to grab hold of the fact that you have a conscious mind and you have a
Yeah,
subconscious mind. And your
yeah,
conscious mind has got to take the reins of your inner horse and
yeah,
tell your subconscious mind, how do you do it? Practicing great vocal exercises.
yeah.
And then practicing them into songs, and then where doing something like record yourself back and hear
Hmm.
yourself. Are you yelling? Another way that works pretty well, with some people magnificently well, is to sing into the palm of your hand and imagine your hand is like a glass window pane.
Yeah.
don't don't leave a breath mark on it. yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. Thank you so much. So let's move. Our time
Okay.
is fast running. This is
I
already like
know. I know.
okay.
We could
So
talk for
let's talk
days.
about fast tracking your growth. How did you measure improvement in your thinking? How do you what do you advise or how would you teach singers to measure fast track your growth process?
Okay. I'm going to give you an answer you might not expect, but the first thing you got to do is don't hurt your voice anymore. Stop hurting your voice. Stop the bad habit or recognize the bad habit. Okay. And the second thing is with an intuitive coach or friend or choir director or somebody, start to become aware of what your worst area is. Is it a habit of breath pressure? Is it the articulation? Is it, and work on that first.
Mm,
Don't try to do everything at once. That's a great way not to fast track.
mm,
I think fast tracking has a lot to do with slow tracking. Slow
mm,
down and address the one thing that is your worst area,
mm,
with your vocal technique and retrain that. And then that should affect all kinds of other areas. Like when you get breath
mm.
pressure better, you can open your throat more and you're going to
Yeah,
get more tone. If you sing as if to open your throat, you're going to
yeah.
have to use better breath pressure. So they kind of
Mm-hmm.
go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Start talking, start delivering messages rather than just singing. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden your articulation is going to be better.
Yeah.
You're going to stop yelling at people if you're
Mm-hmm.
really telling them something,
Yeah.
not unless you want them to go away. I mean, in other words, be the magnet. Think like a magnet instead of a blowhard.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the fast track has a lot to do with zeroing in on the one thing and then pile on, what's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
And maybe go back to that first thing, but
Mm-hmm.
just join the things that you can discover that you need to be better at.
Yeah.
And then your voice grows not linearly, but out to the in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
And also, I think always remember the why to getting fast tracked with your voice.
Mm.
You want to deliver messages that get responses. That's what your
Yeah.
voice is for.
Yeah.
Instead of just singing better. That's
Yeah.
the reason a lot of artists can't sing as well as their background singers,
Mm-hmm.
but they're the ones that are signed to the labels.
Mm.
That's because they know the secret.
Yeah.
It's about delivering messages.
Messages.
That's your why. Yeah.
Yeah. Woo! That's a lot to take in. I would really love for listeners to listen to this part over and over and over again. So if you're there, my listener, if you're there, I need you to listen to this over and over and over again till it sinks in because um, breaking bad habits won't happen in a day. It takes a long process of training your mind to break that cycle and say, okay, we're not doing it this way, we're doing it this new way. It took a whole lot of time for me. And if you listen to Mama, it also took some time from her as well. And
Yes.
fast tracking your growth, don't kill yourself. Okay, don't kill
No.
yourself. Fast tracking, slow tracking as well. So you need to slow down, zero in on that, those the bad areas of your voice, and also know the strengths of your voice.
Right.
Yeah, also know the strength, know the bad areas, know that place you're weak in, and begin to work on it slowly, taking one at a time. And if you're done with
Right.
that, move to the next. If you're done with that,
Right.
move to the next. Thank you so much, Mama Judy. It's always a refreshing time with you.
Oh, what a
This podcast
blast.
has been another impactful, inciting. Oh Lord, it's been another beautiful one. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
time.
for having me.
I
Yeah.
really cannot wait till the next one. While we're talking, I've already started getting topic for our next pod. I really want to hear you talk about vowel shaping.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
saying something
Mhm.
about how we shape our vowels, and I would really love to talk
I call
extensively.
it morphing.
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 Yeah, morphing.
Yeah,
Okay.
morphing instead of vowel modification, I call it
Modification.
morphing.
All right. So I would really love to hear you speak on that.
Sure.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's going to be a blast. And I'd also want to talk about public speaking as well.
Oh
Public
yeah. Great.
speaking. Yes, because
Great.
there's a whole connection between speaking and singing, and a lot of
Oh
this
yes.
applies to both of them. But I really love to
Right.
take that as a topic on its own. So
You
thank you
got it.
so much. I am so grateful. This has been another
Wow,
beautiful
you've
section.
made it this far. It was quite a lengthy discussion, but I am so sure it was worth it. So thanks for listening. Until our next episode, I also had another discussion with another amazing personality. Her name is Karen, and I cannot wait to drop that conversation as well. We spoke about singing on key and the phenomenon known as tone deafness and all that. And it was quite an interesting conversation. So I really love for us to talk about that too. There's also another guest waiting for us. Her name is Nancy. Nancy is another amazing person, and I cannot wait to have that wonderful discussion with her as well. We're going to be talking about stage fright and everything that has to do with your mind and empowering your voice. So anticipate that also. So until our next podcast, bye.